Okay, thank you, everybody. So this is the June 9th, 2022 Board of Finance special meeting. Call this meeting to order. This is the meeting to set the mill rate, etc. You see the agenda on there. We'll go ahead and call to order and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead on to agenda item 2, which is public speak. We have any members of the public you want to speak? Eric, do you want to do the round, Robin? We have Kimberly Person. Not sure who else is here.
Okay, we'll start with Kimberly Person.
I'm all set, just listening. Thank you.
Okay, next, phone with last number 2020.
That's me.
Ah, got it. Okay,
That's Louise. Yeah, sorry.
okay, no problem. And last number 5579, Marina, I assume that's you?
That is me.
Yep, so that would be it for public speak.
Okay, we'll go ahead to agenda item 3, which is we'll call it a budget workshop for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. I think we have a budget that's passed referendum, so there's probably not much to discuss here, but if anybody has any comments or questions or input, we can certainly discuss it at this point.
I have just one question. Do we have the official tally from the meeting? I like to keep track of the number of people voted. who
From the
voted yes and
referendum?
no. Yeah, from the referendum and the questions again. I just keep that for my personal, if Eric or somebody.
that's
can
a good
give that to
question.
me.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Hang on 2 secs. I took a picture of the official results.
I do like to compare it to the previous year to see if we have more voters, less voters, how it's swinging, so it's interesting.
Let me take it on my other phone. Hang on.
So it's no rush, Eric, just anytime. Send it to me.
While we're doing that, Mark, I was trying to, before you started, did we hear from our other members? Like, I see a couple people missing. I didn't see an email.
Kurt had responded that he could not make it.
Okay.
And I didn't hear back from specifically from Rob, but I know that Thursday and Fridays are often difficult for him because of his family duties.
No, I think it's good if we know that. So if people are coming or not. No,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Diane, total voters, registered voters in the town of Andover, 2,241. Total people that came out to vote, 524, which was a 23% turnout, which for a budget is very good. Question number 1, shall the budget be approved? Yes, 292, no, 230, blank 2. Non-binding advisory question number 2. Is the Andover Elementary School budget too high? 283, too low? 154, blank 85. Question number 3. Is the Andover budget too high? 237, too low? 164, blank 123.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, I still have a significant of people who still think everything's too high. Okay, so it's interesting.
Well,
Or, well,
most people think gas is too high too, but
yeah.
Can I make, what was interesting that I found out about budget, I guess I know Eric said something about registered voters. I learned that as long as you pay taxes, I think, in this town, you're allowed to vote even if you're not a registered voter. I checked, no, is that not
I don't
true?
think that's correct. I think you have to be
I
a
don't think
registered voter in town.
Yeah, I'm not stating it correctly. Carol Lee is the one who gave me the info because I asked, because I think I was researching something one time, a different town, and it said something about all property owners. So I could have the verbiage wrong, but it's not necessarily if you're registered to vote, in a
Oh, that,
party.
that's interesting. I wouldn't have been
Yeah.
aware of that. I wouldn't-
Yeah, I don't know if everyone knows that. So but whatever. Thank you.
Well, it is interesting because when you look at the numbers, so out of the people that voted to approve the budget, which is 292, 283 people said the AES budget was too high versus 237 for the town. So there's a significant swing there. Almost, those people obviously voted to approve the budget, even though they felt that the AES budget might have been too high. So it's a good question, Diane, and interesting to have that information.
It's just good to track it historically to see if there's any correlation to anything.
Well,
Not that
it obviously tells us something that we already know, which is that a lot of the angst over the budget is about the AES budget too.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got 283 voting that the school budget is too high versus 237 for the town. Now, there are a lot of people from the town who didn't vote, who didn't make a choice, which we assume means that they're neutral on it. I think it's about
I'm
right.
assuming a blank means they're okay with it. Do you know what I mean? So.
Yep. Okay. All right.
But,
Further
with
discussion?
inflation being high, it's just interesting to see how people think,
Yeah, for sure.
I'd like to say something. Can the results, or has the results been posted to the website under the budget part?
No, they have not.
No. It might be a good idea to do that, so people stop asking other people, did you hear anything about it yet? And
Well-
sometimes you hear unofficial stuff, on the Facebook.
Well, look, there will be a bunch of posts made on Monday. Right now, Amanda's out this week. And it's not that I can't post it. It's just me getting it in the right spot consistently does not seem to happen very often. So,
Okay,
it will get posted.
but generally it does, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Further questions or comments about the budget? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item 4, which is to adopt the mill rate for fiscal year 2022-2023. Per our budget that was
Mark,
voted.
I don't think you saw me raising my hand. Sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joanne.
Yeah, it's quick. I mean, is the document that's posted on the website, or the one that we're gonna work on, is that finalized with any little tweaks that were made? That's all.
So I'm not sure what's on the website, but the one that was approved for the town referendum.
So yeah.
Yeah. Eric, is that on the website? Do you know the answer to Joanne's question? offhand?
Yes. So the budget that was put forward for the town meeting 3 weeks or so ago is the official, because the town meeting approved it. It went to referendum. So we can't do any tweaks on that budget at this point.
I don't mean tweaks, adding or subtracting. I just were mistakes caught or something. I know. So I guess not. Thank you. Sorry. Dumb question from me, but I didn't know if, along the way, we found a couple things here and there. I don't know if there were any changes that didn't result in changing the bottom line, I guess. Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's posted, but okay. Further questions or comments?
I hope I'm allowed to ask this question now. I
Go
did,
for it.
I did send an email, I guess, is Marina our person? And hi, Marina, taking the notes and everything tonight. I had posed a question. Hello, I had posed a question in email to see if we were gonna have, anyone else from the finance department present to ask budget questions or other questions, but I assume that's a no.
That is a no. Sherry is sick. I asked her specifically to attend this meeting, and she said, no, she's too sick.
Oh, well, of course, if she's sick. Okay, thank you. Glad Marina's here.
Further questions? Okay, let's go ahead and we'll move on to agenda item 4, which is adopt the mill rate for fiscal year 2022-2023 budget. Per the town budget that was approved at the referendum, we had a calculated mill rate of 31.91. Eric, does that jive with what you have?
That is correct.
Okay, would anybody like to make a motion that we adopt the mill rate of 31.91?
I will make a motion that we adopt the mill rate of 31.91.
Okay, Diane so moves. Do we have any seconds?
I'll second it.
Okay, Louise seconds. Thank you. Do we have any discussion?
I would just clarify that that's for the fiscal year 2022, 2023 year.
Okay. So noted. I think that's reasonable clarification. If we were voting on any other mill rate, it would be inappropriate. Any further discussion or questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, any abstentions? Okay, the motion passes unanimously, 500. Thank you, everybody. We will- Go ahead, Eric.
One thing quick under this line, typically, and I know we didn't do it last year, but normally the chair of the Board of Finance sends a letter to the tax collector and the assessor's office formally adopting and announcing the bill rate. So, and we'd like to get that as soon as possible because we need to start sending out tax bills.
You'll have that tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
So that goes to Carol and to the assessor.
That goes to the assessor's office, who's John Chaponis, and then a copy to the tax collector, who's Eileen Kirk.
Oh, right, tax collector. Okay. And I'll copy you in the board.
That would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 5, which is discussion of the audit. So Eric, we had a meeting today and my apologies for not catching the beginning of that. Do you want to give us a short summary of our situation and the plan to move forward?
Sure. So we still do not have a completed audit. There's a fairly significant cash discrepancy between the bank balance and the balance in, the essentially last year end, reconciliation as audited. The auditor still thinks it's an issue between the reconciliation of the school account and the school budget and the town budget. And it's high enough. He's given me a bunch of different numbers over the last month, but all of them are over $100,000, which is the difference between a significant finding, and a relatively minor finding. I mean, nobody's expecting it to be spot on, but right now there's a big enough difference that it's clearly a material finding if we can't address it. So starting tomorrow morning, Jeff McGuire has agreed to sit down with Marina. And then as soon as Sherry comes back from being sick, with Sherry also, and see whether Marina's identified a whole series of things that she thinks are an issue. And we've got those lined out, and just try to see whether we can reconcile the two. That's the kind of plan we have at the moment, for going forward. Obviously, none of us are happy to get into this position and still not have, a functional audit. We know part of the problem that year was, we started off with one finance person who was Barbara Griffin. Barbara resigned. There was a little bit of overlap between Marina, who took over as the assistant finance officer. We went, another 4 or 5 months before we had a finance director. And we paid on a consulting basis somebody to Laura, the old school business manager, to fill in part. But, we had essentially 100% transition in that office, and it did not go smoothly by any means. So
Question. I'm not following something. So when you say bank balance between the school budget and the town budget, so are you saying that the checkbook for the town and the school don't match the balances? We can't get the balances to reconcile back to the bank?
correct. That the bank reconciliation is incorrect because there were a series of things that were not posted correctly. That have to get fixed. And there's a fairly big difference in cash between what was actually the bank balance and what was the balance as listed in Phoenix on the town side. Once they account for the things that were not posted.
So the
Can we
bank
just have
has less money?
that I understand, like what date
Because-
claims were, sorry, Diane,
I just want to
some-
know, does the bank have less money than what we think we have?
Correct.
It's not in our favor, in other words. Okay,
It's not in our favor. No.
okay.
Any discrepancy is not in our favor. Go ahead, Joanne, you have a
All
question?
so that I understand, because I try to learn and grow my brain. So last year's audit, right now we're talking about the end of the year that started okay, so we're in June 2022. We're talking about the fiscal year that ended June 2021.
2021, yeah, 2020, 2021 fiscal
Thank
year.
you. But the year prior, he referenced too. Did that all go clear? Like you said, with the start of that till the end? I mean, did that,
As far as we know, the audit from 2019,
thank you.
2020 is good. The question is the audit from 2020, 21, kind of is the issue.
Which has been worked on forever, right? And these new problems are coming up now?
No, these are problems from the last fiscal year, so they're part of the current audit.
No, I
Right,
understand, but it
but we-
ended 2021.
So yes, the
most-
current fiscal year ended
most-
June 2021.
So a year ago it finished. So
Right.
just, to me, it's the enormity of the problem that knowing a lot, RAM, I'm just putting it all into my scope of what I know. I know all of you have been involved. But generally, this should be tied up, signed, sealed, delivered January. And we're still finding all these huge problems now, is all I'm saying. I'm sorry. I really am outspoken, so I'm gonna say.
No, I think it's a legitimate concern. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, we changed software systems, et cetera, blah, blah,
But-
blah. New
right.
finance director, challenges getting the school and town finances integrated. But
No,
there's
I've
a
been
real
to every
problem.
single meeting for the town and the board, as many, so I do follow it. I just want to state it out loud, but that's just shocking. I know it was the new system and I even talked to, I think
Well, the new
Marina.
system has nothing to do with the last audit. The last audit is on Phoenix. So the new system is this year.
Correct.
So,
I just want to make sure that we all state out loud what's happening. Right. Thank you, Diane. And I know that I remember with talking, since we're talking audit, when Marina came on board and, there were new employees, there was Jay, there was Marina and Sherry. And I know Marina came on board first and Sherry followed. But Sherry was on board at least a few months before the changeover and the transition to the new software. I'd have to find my notes. Yeah,
Correct.
so thank you. I'll step back. You guys are more experienced, but the enormity of it is that we're talking about last year's audit that ended last June 30th, and we're still.
So
now we're trying to-
Joanne, you're right.
Yeah,
We had started the audit in August, I want to say. Started working with the auditor to start pulling, items that they wanted us to start going through. And Sherry and I did that for both the town and the school. And then we didn't hear from them for months. I don't know what happened. I don't know if they had a staffing change, because now we have totally different people working with Michael. So we didn't hear back from them until probably February, March, and then really got into the brunt of it then. And it's been since March going back and forth, finding additional things.
thank you. That does explain it. Like you start right, you try to, that's what I was kind of saying last time, Marina, when you try to close everything out, all the stuff has to be ordered
Right.
like in June. You guys get all the bills in, and then that's great to hear. So you did start on I knew, I try to.
Yeah.
So thank you, just to understand. So it really was pulling stuff for them. They had it, but then they didn't start their because I've been audited and I was a grants accountant in a school system. So those audits are not fun in the summer, where you have to find every last thing.
Yeah.
But it,
Right.
yeah. So then you gave them the stuff they wanted. You did not hear back till this March.
Yes, it was probably months. And I know Sherry would reach out to Michael, for an update, and I'm not sure what. It was definitely a few months for sure. Over the holidays, we didn't hear anything, but ideally it would have been great to have it all said and done, by January, like you said. But I don't know what happened there. That's why this year I'm trying to do as much as I can now. And Eric asked me to put a list together of things for the next audit, once this is all settled, so that in August, September, October, we can start, getting things together that will help for this year's audit next year and get it done earlier than, the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah, and no blame at all. I just like to understand it. It sounds like it's a lot on their end too, and I know you'll have questions going forward. And at least when did you start, Marina? If you don't mind, because now at least you're a full year in.
The week of Thanksgiving 2020, I
Right.
started.
So really a year and a
So
half,
it was-
basically, right?
Yeah. So it was a lot, when I came in, I really only had Laura and Barbara for a little bit, and then was kind of on my own to figure things out. And then when Sherry got on, trying to get her acclimated, and then trying to go back and fix everything. And it's been challenging, and I'm, doing everything I can with the auditors to try to pull whatever information I can, try to, get this settled. And I'm going to sit down with Jeff McGuire tomorrow and go through everything I have with him, just to have another eye, take a look at things as well.
Yeah, thank you for that explanation. Thanks for your efforts.
Oh, I have a question. As I recall, okay, when we got to, last year, we closed the year, the fiscal year ending 2021, a little bit later than we wanted to. I think it was somewhere September, October-ish that we actually got the final finance reports. But I thought the delay on closing the month was waiting for, bills to come in and things like that, but also getting all the bank accounts reconciled. We reconciled all our bank accounts for last year, correct?
Yeah, yep, they're all
We had
reconciled.
to in
but-
order to close out the year. So obviously,
yeah,
what
but
we
we're-
did still had some deficiencies in it that the auditor found that we did not find.
Yeah, so a lot of things like I've been trying to work on, and the big issue is that the server crashed for Phoenix. So I'm literally going off of a report that I found stuffed in my backpack from last summer, from July 7th, which thank God I had it. But I'm trying to go through line by line between the school and the town to ensure everything was posted, you know, accounts payable batches, payroll, insurance, any deposits, et cetera, and I found a few things, of course, that, you know, I didn't post when I started, or I posted something twice, or posted something that shouldn't have been posted, so I'm trying to figure out all those line items, and I had given them to the auditor, which in turn made the difference bigger, but they had asked me today to go through all those things that I found and post, you know, what the journal entry would be to correct it. So all these things that were missing that I found correlate back to previous bank recs where maybe that difference wasn't put in. So all the bank recs may need to get gone through again. They said that might be an issue as well, but that's another bridge we'll have to cross when we get there.
Right, so I'm assuming even though this was Phoenix, don't we have our work papers from doing the bank reconciliations for last year?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, everything,
Right.
yeah, yep.
So all of our accounts were balanced and we just didn't find the discrepancies. Is that
Well-
a true statement?
The question in my mind is if there were significant things missing from them, how could it balance?
Right, so I'm just
Right.
trying to say, how can we sign off that our accounts are reconciled and then find this off later? Do you know what I mean? Unless there were posting errors that we didn't recognize. And that could be. I guess I just want to understand the root of cause of the problem. Because I don't want to repeat it.
Correct.
It's definitely since the cash that we have in our account is more, it's things that's why I want to go through the journal, like the proposed journal entries of how it would correct it, because if we have too much money, then it's some entries somewhere that are not, there's something missing entries wise somewhere. So hopefully Jeff and I can go through that tomorrow.
Okay.
Been consulting with Sherry as well? I mean, has she been helpful in getting it resolved?
She went through like most of the bank reconciliations, and I've been trying to go through, you know, I was the one that had the single report from Phoenix. You know, it's like the last thing possible that we have left in the system to go through. So I was working on, you know, going through any journal entries that maybe weren't made, like I was saying, any accounts payable or payrolls or, you know, anything of that matter, because in theory, I was the one that was doing those journal entries, so I was more familiar with those items to do that. So, I mean, as I was working on it, obviously I was talking with Sherry, you know, I was physically doing the work, but together we were, you know, going over it.
So where do we go from here? I do want to be part of any kind of exit interviews or any kind of interviews we have with the auditor, because I really want to understand this.
Yeah,
I
so,
want to
so
get
I think
firsthand.
one of the things that we came out of a brief meeting we had today is that there's a lot of digging to be done. So I think the auditor, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, because I missed the first part of the meeting, but there's some journal entries and others that I think they've identified as potential problem areas that they need to clarify. But the long and short of it is that we need to file for an extension with the state. And so the plan is to file for an extension until end of June and have, you know, aggressively work this situation over the next couple of weeks until we get this stuff resolved. That means it's going to require, you know, Jeff is fortunately, obviously he's a CPA and that helps us out a little bit. He's going to work with Marina and we've got to engage Sherry as soon as she's available back from her illness to get on this and answer the questions that need to be answered in the school end. We can't let that kind of hang out there too. I don't know that we have that many answers right now, but there's a lot of questions about what, you know, kind of what happened. I think next year, hopefully we'll be in a much better position. But right now there's a lot of open questions and we've got to apply for another extension to get this thing done.
How
Great, I
serious?
mean,
This
I
is
just want to make
serious,
sure we
right?
understand what
this is a
happens
big-
so we can
Yeah,
go
I'm sorry.
forward correctly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Joanne?
Mark, just because you had said you were all together for a meeting today and you got to know the extent of it. It sounds pretty serious.
It is serious. This thing should be done. You know, we
Oh,
got a
no, I mean,
problem. and
I'm
that-
holding back, so clearly I'm really biting my tongue. And it's
Yeah.
not directed at
But-
Marina at all. I mean, I know
No, and I don't think it
it's
should
not
be,
at
but
any
it
one
it kind of,
person.
yeah.
It's
I mean,
just, I mean, a lot of things have been said in these meetings. Diana said she wanted to be present because she'll be the, glue. I mean, I'm glad you were there. No, and just, I know month to month, Eric has said they're working with the auditors, they're doing this, that's taking all their time. So it's frustrating that they submitted some stuff at the beginning and then they didn't hear back. I mean, a person, like if that was me, and I'm being really kind, and not Marina, she wasn't the director, I'd be calling them. And I'd be saying,
well,
what's.
the reality, I think, though, is that, and Eric, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that we made mistakes along the way. So I don't think we can pin this on the auditor. I think that we made errors. So we had a new system, we had new people, we had a lot of turnover, as Eric mentioned, and we made mistakes. So the auditor is, by nature, it's not their job to balance the books every month.
So
Would
if
it be
looks
better
like
if they
I'm
were
blaming
engaged
the
earlier
auditor,
and
I'm not.
responding? Yeah.
Oh, I'm not blind. I just would be calling them to get together.
Yeah.
I'm not going in that direction at all. I'm not blaming anybody yet. I'm just want to hear it all, no, I just meant calling to see, hey, how's it going? Can we hear from you? That kind of call.
Okay.
Yep. Thank
I mean,
you.
I think when I say it's serious, I think part of that's my own personal frustration, which I know you guys share, that we're even talking about this right now. We shouldn't be. But it is what it is. And I think, I don't think that like this, the town's facing any kind of financial reporting crisis. But it's just, I'm preaching to the choir here. I know you guys want this, I want the T's crossed and the I's dotted and everything lining up. And so it's very frustrating to even be at this point. I missed the first part of the meeting today. Obviously, many of us work day jobs, so but we had the auditor when we could get him. And there's some work to be done, but it's very, very frustrating. But I think right now we just have more questions than answers, and there's not. I absolutely share the Diane's sentiment, and I think you're getting at the same place, Joanne, that we need to understand the root cause. What happened? Is this likely to happen again? I'm guessing not, given the fact that we're moving into a different direction in terms of the town's finances and we have the new software, et cetera. But our confidence is shaken, and we need to make sure that things are being done properly. So
Do our job without accurate financial reporting.
yeah, I don't know if the financial reporting is that far off. It's just that the balances and everything and the entries need to be allocated to the correct accounts, et cetera. So I don't know, Eric, do you have anything to add to that? Am I mischaracterizing anything?
No, I mean, every year since I've been involved, we've had to seek 3 or 4 extensions on the audit. Even when we as a town had our act together reasonably well, the reality is, the auditor has never really started seriously working on our, on the town stuff till after the new year at the earliest. Now, not for this past fiscal year, Michael had said they had enough less, we had gotten a little farther up in the pecking order, and he thought this year we would actually get on the list and get work done in the fall with the intention of not having to get an extension, because we all expressed to the auditor last year that, we really didn't, we were really unhappy with going that far into the budgeting season, and not have solid numbers to work with. Now, but the reality is, and I thought we were doing okay early on because Mike sent one of his CPAs, Nick, in and sent him in like August asking for information, which has never happened to us before. Usually, if we're lucky, they show up and pull that stuff in December or the beginning of January. So early on,
I have an email from July 28th. I have an email. I just looked quick. I have an email from July 28th of last year of them asking for us to start pulling collections.
Right. So I mean, early on, it looked like, you know, we were going to actually be reasonably on time for once. So, you know, I was quite encouraged early on. But then for whatever reason, you know, after an initial spurt of pulling information, usually they go away for a month or two, and then we start getting either further information or preliminary reports back. You know, and they really didn't engage with the town again until almost March. Now, the problem is in March, you know, we were still kind of a cluster, and, you know, we hadn't done this year some of the financial statements that in the past Barbara had done, which makes the audit a lot easier. So that's on us. But on the other hand, there was zero turnover between Barbara, who did them in previous years, and Sherry. And we never really got a list from the auditor of the things they expected us to do and produce. So by the time Michael came back to me in March and said, hey, you know, you really need financial statements, you know, it's like, okay, well, we don't have them. How do we proceed? You know, and Mahoney essentially agreed to do the financial statements, which they'd done for the first couple of years when they audited the town, but hadn't done it in a few years. You know, and that was a delay, you know, and then after that, they were just doing random sampling. And Michael came back and said, there's a couple things early in the process that don't make sense, you know, and we've kind of been going down that rabbit hole since then. So what I would say is there's plenty of blame. You know, the auditor certainly was not prompt in working on the town of Andover, but we certainly didn't have our act together either.
I just find it
That's my
disconcerting that they find significant discrepancies that we ourselves could not detect. Because we should be going through and reconciling our bank accounts every month and doing our checks and balances. So, you know, in the back of my mind, I see that we may have some process deficiencies that we don't have enough of the checks and balances in place. And that's what I'm looking forward. You know, that we make sure that whatever we do, we find out why this happened, how it happened, and we put the appropriate processes in place going forward so it doesn't happen again. The past is the past, can't change that. We can just fix going forward. And, you know, so with that, I just want to ask the one question that's been lagging. Where do we stand this fiscal year? That's ending June 30th on reconciling our bank accounts. Are we up to date, or how far behind are we?
We've reconciled through April at this point.
And Eric, whose responsibility is that? I mean, has it been up until this year?
The finance director does the reconciliation.
That's
So
what I thought. Okay, I just wanted to ask the question. So we're through April. And I'm looking at it, you know, and learning too, because we make a lot of decisions. Clearly, I'm preaching to the choir, you know, on budgets and meetings and everything based on how a prior year goes, like all of you said, you know, and it is frustrating when we can't know. You would think that June 30th, maybe by April, we would know or something. But again, I'm not gonna, you know, go over and over something that we can't change. I moved to this town 17 years ago. And from day one, and it's been all about the finance department. I was very involved at the beginning, raised my children through high school, everything, came back to it, and the same thing was happening. So after sitting through the two, I don't know, I feel like it took a year to get the finance department together. So we'll see. Yeah, it's just frustrating that I feel like it's just been a common theme forever. And you all know that too, so. Not
But
blaming.
just so everyone knows, you know, I know we have a lot of digging through and a lot of stuff to go through to figure this out and all that, and I get that. But in the end run, I would like to know exactly what happened and the timeline of how things happen, so we don't repeat our mistakes. So, we should be learning from this, and we should be, making a timeline and understanding what happened, so we can make sure we don't have any issues similar that's in this year that we don't know about yet. So that's all I want to say. Just don't want to repeat the same mistakes.
Other questions or comments? Okay, more to come. Very frustrating. Obviously, we'd hope to be past this, and I'm an optimist, so I'm hoping next year we'll not be talking about this in June.
I'm not going to let us talk about it in June, because we're going to talk about it way before then. I'm going to be the nag. I'm sorry.
Well, and the other thing we have to seriously consider is, and we should have done it, 4 months ago. But do we consider going out for an RFP for auditing services, and pick again? One, I'm not absolutely sure Michael is willing to audit us again, frankly. I was hoping we would have that discussion already with him, but I think he's kind of waiting to see whether we can actually sort ourselves out before committing to auditing next year. And the reality is, well, we're certainly not the only town without an audit at this point. There's unfortunately a fair number of them, but I would really like to be in the position of having an audit done a whole hell of a lot sooner than this. But, I don't know. One of the things that's concerned me is that the numbers of people auditing municipalities has been decreasing in this state. And like, I know Coventry, their Board of Finance made them go out to RFP this year for auditing services. And the only company that bid on it was the company that was already doing their audits. And they upped their prices. They basically said, well, if you're going to make us conform to an RFP, we're changing our price schedule. So they're in the process of arguing with their auditor that they should honor their original agreement for the extension. And their auditors basically said, no, you took it to RFP, you wanted to test the waters, here's the price net. So I don't know. I don't know. Most of the towns that have gone to RFP have gotten at most one vendor even willing to do it, which is what scares me right now.
I don't want to go to RFP right now, and I'll say my personal opinion, because we don't know what the root cause of anything is. I think a lot of our issues are our processes and our checks and balances and the things that we don't have cleaned up in our own house. The auditor should expect to get work papers from us and be complete and accurate. So if we can't produce stuff, then, shame on us. We're supposed to keep the records. So, after this audit is put to bed, then I think it's a discussion of what we want to do next. But I don't think it's anything I would do right now. We have too many questions to even understand what the issues are.
Right, but I would also say that if we wait a month or two, every month we wait now, since, we should have already notified the state who our auditor for next year is already, technically, let alone, so if we are going to make a different choice, that decision needs to be made relatively quickly.
Well, and we don't even know what our problems are, so we don't even know what to put in
right,
our
yeah. We're not in a position to make any kind of decision right now.
Right. So, we need the facts before we do anything.
And we also have to realize that now at the end of this month, I think Sherry moves on to her new role. I know.
Right.
And so poor Marina, as a fellow worker bee, is gonna be caught in the middle of all of this, so we're cognizant of that, Marina. I support you in your role, but it's, it's gonna be tough if there's a mess. And then she's, trying to figure this to get the audit finalized and all of that, plus start whatever she needs to do for good processes and procedures in the town going forward. So that it's really gonna snowball. So I hope that this next week or whatever meetings you have and Mr. McGuire comes in and helps and that it goes faster rather than slower, just because, we're not in any really good shape in our, if you had two people there before and now it's just Marina, it's gonna be difficult. For now.
Well, it's one step at a time. Once we got to get through this audit, we need to understand what the issues are. And then we'll know. And then from there, we can decide what we need to put in place going forward. But until we have the answers, there's nothing we can do.
So Diane, kind of piggybacking on what you were saying, I talked to Michael and Samantha, the other girl that's working on this, and I was saying to them, if we have to go through all these bank recs and do all this to get this done, and now, like Joanne was saying, yes, now going forward, it's me and, whoever we end up hiring for a treasurer. So ultimately, I believe the bank rec will become my responsibility. So I want to make sure everything for this last year, the current year that we're in, is good and come up with a better process, because we've just been following the Excel sheet that Barbara was using previously. And even the auditor was like, there needs to be a better way to do this. And Edmunds does have a bank reconciliation function that I believe will link right with a bank account to make it kind of less manual and more automated of what's going between the two.
Yep.
So that might be something
We
I'm
should
going to
look
look at
into.
as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Because ultimately my workload will become a little bigger with more budget and audit, grant, whatever else will be in it. And to make anything easier for myself that has less manual work, if that's something that ends up working well, then hopefully that's.
Once we
won't
identify
limit
what the
us.
issues are, and literally speaking, if we have to, pay professional services to come in and have Edmunds come in and get us, cleaned up on the software or extra training we need to weigh based on what we find out of this audit and where our needs are, what we need to do to get over the hump. Because if we don't fix the problem now and get it going forward, we're just compounding every month. So once we find out what the issues are, we can formulate a plan and execute a very well thought out, crafted plan about how to get on track. And I think that's worth the effort putting into.
Oh,
And Marina, you will
absolutely
be, critical to that, because
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a million things you have ideas on, so.
Yes. That's even, to make anything that's going to be easier, A, for me, B, for the audit, and C, for anything that you guys have to review believe me, I'm all for whatever we have to do to get this resolved and get anything in place going forward to make it a better process.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I suspect we'll have more information for our next meeting, and hopefully we can, be able to respond more effectively at that point. So.
An idea Michael did throw out was bringing in a consultant. He said maybe like a retired finance director or someone that works part-time as a CPA or whatever, just to have someone go through maybe all the bank recs again from last year with whatever findings that I found, and just to have another outside person go through them all, because frankly, after looking at it so many times, it turns into a different language of me looking at it. So,
Can't be one
and
set
to
of
have
eyes.
yeah.
You can't check your own work. It's hard being
Yeah.
a one-person show. So,
Yeah, I think Jeff had just basically said he wants to take a look at it and take a quick crack at it before we commit to
Right.
hiring an outside person to consult.
Right. No, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay, and it's not completely on topic, but I just wanted to ask a question. So we had put off the last couple of meetings making any of the adjustments. And Marina and I have been trying to figure out how we do them all and get the majority of them in and to you. So the next budget meeting is on the 22nd. The good thing about that is the last payroll gets cut on the 20th, and we'll cut checks on the 21st. So that should be the last time we cut checks before July 1, and that will be the last payroll of the fiscal year. So our goal was to set aside pretty much all of the 22nd, and just Marina and I and Sherry sit down and go through all the budget transfers that we need to make. There will be some things we will not be able to account for at that point, and some of them will be big. Like, for instance, we will not get the bill for the resident state trooper till sometime in August, because that's when the state sends it. So there are some things we can't deal with, but we can deal with probably 97% or 98% of the things we need to deal with. My problem is that means we're going to be finishing it up the same day as the meeting. And so we're not going to be able to give it to you before the meeting. And to me, that's a problem, because I'd like to have it in your hands, 4 or 5 days before to review. But that's just not possible if we're going to include the last payroll and we're going to include the last round of town checks the town makes. So my question is, how do you as a Board of Finance want to do that? Do you want to get it that day and have to deal with it? Or do you want to hold an additional meeting later so you have it in hand ahead of time?
Mark, have a really good vacation. Enjoy it. I'll speak for myself. I would like to look at the stuff. I don't have a problem delaying our meeting for a week.
But we could delay it. I mean, we would have to call a special meeting.
Right.
You
I
just
mean,
cancel the meeting on the 22nd.
delay it for a week, so we have the time to get the work done, to digest the information, so we know what we're doing. I mean, it is what it is. I mean,
I think that's a good idea. We don't have anything pressing now that the budget has passed. So delaying it to give them time to get it in our hands so that we're not asking a million questions that night.
That they
I mean,
haven't
at
changed the
first I
thing.
was leaning towards it would have been fine, but that's a great idea, Diane. There's nothing pressing. I'd be okay. I know that's a busy week for me just personally, but it probably makes sense. So that it would be on the Wednesday. So as
right,
long as
a week from the 22nd is, which is what, I don't have a
29th.
calendar.
yeah, the 29th. So I'd be okay for that.
Let me
I don't
just
know
look
about-
real quick on the calendar and see what's on the 29th. Just make sure it's not going to be, there's nothing, there are no meetings listed on the 29th.
But want to do that, Eric?
Well, we have to, we can't, I mean, we'll announce it separately, that assuming that we all agree at that time, that we'll cancel the June 22nd meeting, and then we'll announce a special meeting. It's not actually something that we would decide at this meeting because it's not on the agenda. Therefore, according to regulations, we really cannot be discussing or deciding on something that's not on the agenda on a special meeting. So. But if everyone's in general agreement, I think it makes sense. I mean, we can certainly talk about it, but actually take the action. This is just an administrative action, so I don't think it's like a substantive action. It shouldn't be a big deal.
Oh, if everybody's agreed, we'll just plan on doing what we have to do to get that done.
Yeah.
Do the meeting a week later.
Okay.
Works for me.
All right. Other discussion? All right, we'll move on to item 6, which is correspondence. I haven't received any correspondence. I don't know if anybody else has that we would need to present.
I have not.
Okay, item 7 is public speak.
Okay,
Go through.
first up would be Kimberly Person.
I do have a couple of very specific questions for you based on what I've heard tonight. But what I think I'm going to do is send you an email. And hopefully I'll get an answer from you guys
That's a good way
after
to
I
get
send that
the
email.
answers. Yeah.
I think the discussion that I've heard, it warrants an email. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Thank you, Kimberly.
Okay, next up, Kathleen Weigart. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Okay. Okay, next up, the phone number ending in 2012. Oh, never mind. Sorry.
That's
So
the way.
that does take care of all the members of the public that I know of. I
Okay,
don't
looks
see,
like everybody to me also. Okay, so hearing nothing else, we'll move on to agenda item number 8, which is adjournment. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, thank you, Louise.
I'll
Anybody
second it.
second? Joanne seconds. Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, we'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, I think I mentioned this in an email, but just a reminder, I won't be available at the next meeting. I will be on vacation. And also, if we hold a special meeting on the 29th, I won't be available that week either. I will be in Paris, so wish me well.
Have a good
I'll
time.
be thinking about you guys, I promise.
Enjoy.
But thank you, everybody. Appreciate your hard work. I know it was a tough budget season, but everybody put it together and we worked together well, I think. So thank you very much. The meeting's adjourned. Hope you have a great week and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Right.